All right, good morning, trade pros. Welcome to our morning market update for Thursday, August the 23rd. This is George from Trade Pro Academy here with our friendly co-hosts, Marky and Victorio as well. Can you guys believe it's Thursday already? What's happened to time? We're in a time warp. Geez, we need to bring the DeLorean out of the parking spot and take her for a run. All right, so today's morning market update, we're going to talk about a lot of stuff. And with that, we begin. First of all, key earnings this morning, and Lowe's is up 5.8%, announcing a turnaround and transition plan the shareholders are buying into. Royal Bank of Canada, some blue blood from the Canadian country, 1.9% after beating expectations. Target up 3.2% amid soaring comparable sales. Some people call it Target. I like to call it Target. All right, just my thing. Take your passports out. We're going to take a tour around the world. In Asia, Japan's up 0.2%, Hong Kong's down 0.5%, China is up 0.4%, and India's up 0.1%. So mixed and scattered markets around the Asian session, but overall we're seeing some slight gains in Asian markets. In Europe at midday, London was flat. Paris was up 0.1 of a percentage point. Frankfurt down 0.2 of a percent. So pretty much lost traction there as well, lost the footing. Sideways grind. This is a drift with low volume, consolidation phase in equity markets. And this is what we expected at the start of the week, because right now we're in the peak vacation season for institutional traders. You want to know where money managers are right now instead of trading? They're somewhere on the beach sipping pina coladas and popping $400 bottles of champagne. All right, that's what they're doing. They're not at the desk trading, so that's why it's a little bit tougher to get some volatility and volume coming into these markets. In Europe, or rather in the U.S., futures are flat across the board. Dow, S&P, and NASDAQ. I haven't seen S&P in such a tight range since yesterday, but really, it's in a tighter range than yesterday. If you guys look at the back, this is the S&P 500 here over the evening. So this black line's where it starts, up about 64.5, down to about 58. So 6.5 handle range overnight on the S&P 500 market. So we're in for a really fun trading day. Here's what I want to say. If anyone, excuse me, guys, on this broadcast is out in Hawaii, and one of our members is there, David. I hope if you're here, if you're listening, or if you do hear the replay, I hope you're well with you and your family. I hope you guys get through this. I know there's a storm, Lane. It's called Lane. What's funny, Marky? Oh, Zero Hedge. Hurricane Lane. That kind of rhymes. Sounds like a Dr. Seuss type of hurricane, but it's coming up the island into Hawaii, and it's expected to hit there around 2 p.m. And it might miss if it veers off to the left, but please, guys, be safe out there. I'm hoping the best for you. So I really want to mention that as well. David, our thoughts are with you, man. All right. Now we move over to crude oil. Crude oil is down a little bit today. Nice support level of 67.45. That's the next key support below. And then ultimately 69 is a resistance. I think we run up to about 68, 85, 90 or so in the next 2 or so sessions. This thing is looking bullish. We are right now at very strong resistance that we have to get through. But if we get through it, the good news is we're popping champagne up to 69. Gold price is down another 1 percentage point. However, gold is starting to turn a corner. I think the next couple of weeks going to be bullish on it. 1194 support level, and below that 1185. So there's 2 great areas for low risk opportunity. Seasonals for gold start to turn bullish as of right now, and as long as the US dollar remains weak or holds near the low of the sessions and consolidates there, that's going to give a platform for gold prices to rally. All right, so watch the dollar, watch seasonality, and look for low risk, high probability entries. But I'm starting to think about a long gold on a swing trade basis, and I could very well be in it by Friday. All right. Bitcoin's up 1 percentage point. The SEC has once again killed an attempt to launch a Bitcoin ETF. They've rejected 9 applications so far for Bitcoin exchange traded funds or ETFs that would have been hosted on the New York Stock Exchange, on ARCA, and also on the CBOE, the Chiboe. That's where they would have listed the products. However, SEC's killed that attempt. The reason being is they've given the same rejection reason as the past ones. There aren't enough protections against fraud and market manipulations in Bitcoin, and they don't think there's sufficient liquidity to carry an ETF product. All right. Today, the Jackson Hole Summit starts. You heard that right. That's not something that your father has a VHS tape of hidden under the bed. Sorry, I don't know why I went there. Jackson Hole Symposium is basically a central banker meeting for global central bankers around the world. They get together. It carries into the weekend, and then at the end, they make some statements that will have some impact on markets, although mild. Speaking of Jackson Hole Symposium, yesterday we had the Federal Reserve meeting minutes, and they were a dud. They were extremely boring. But what we do now know is that the Fed believes they're getting closer to what they think is a neutral rate. So there's a lot of agreement in the fact that they're hitting almost a stabilization rate, which means they won't need to hike anymore and they won't need to drop anymore. They'll be right at where the market expects. So they're getting close to that, is what they said, but they didn't give the rate. They also said they're worried about these trade wars. It caused them concern. But if you think about when they had this meeting, it's a couple of weeks ago when trade war talks were a little bit more intense. We'll talk about trade wars in one more moment. So the Federal Reserve pretty much gave a neutral report, neutral FOMC meeting minutes, and it didn't really have much impact on markets for that reason. All right, everything that was said we already knew. It just casts a little bit more doubt on the outcome of these trade wars on the economy. That's all they weren't certain about, but nobody's certain about that, so that's not a surprise. All right. All right. Initial jobless claims today came out 210,000 versus 215. That's pretty good. 4-week average dropped, and prior claims were revised higher by 0.1 of a million. All right, so not a big deal. All in all, initial jobless claims did good. 9:45, you got PMI composite flash. 10 a.m., you got new home sales. 10:30, natural gas inventory. And 11, Kansas City Fed manufacturing survey. So you got a lot more news today than you did in the past couple days. All right, so watch for that. Natural gas at 10:30, top of the hour, 10 a.m. You're going to have some news, and then 11 also, with 30 minutes for the European close. Let's end off by saying this very quickly. Fresh round of tariffs on $16 billion worth of goods are now imposed and kicked in at midnight last night. Ironically, this happens as Beijing leaders and United States administration are talking about trade talks. They're negotiating a path forward, trying to come to the table some kind of agreement. Nothing's come out of that meeting yet. However, economists are saying that for every $100 billion of imports that are hit by tariffs, the global trade rather, is hit by 0.5%. That's a pretty significant number if you think about it globally. This is just between China and the US. Last but not least, how would you like to get paid $120 million? Marky, would you like $120 million right now? Vic? They're not answering. They're like, what kind of silly question is that, George? You said depends on the conditions. Victoria doesn't want to know conditions. He doesn't care. Tim Cook just got paid $120 million. He's going to receive 560,000 shares at the end of today, as long as Apple doesn't drop. I think it's more than 3%. So I think at this point we're pretty locked in. And that's part of his annual compensation plan. It's $120 million worth of Apple stock that he's going to receive today based on its current price. And what Tim Cook has done is tied the shares of the company performance and compares it to the S&P 500. So he's saying, hey, make my compensation package based on how the S&P 500 does. So if Apple does great, but the S&P 500 does great as well, that's lower compensation than if the S&P is doing pretty decent and then Apple does phenomenal. So it's the net difference, all right, that he's getting compensated on, which is pretty innovative and unique, and he started that. So there you have it. That's you make $120 million, manage and run Apple. That's a lot of stock, 560,000 shares. Would love to see, keep an eye out on the website at insidercow.com. Would love to see how much of those he sells and when, although I'm pretty sure they're vested. So the ones that he sells will not be the current shares, they'll be ones from the past. The stock compensation packages usually vest over a period of time, so you can't sell them. That's that. All right, guys, you have yourself a great day. I basically told you a crap load of information today. What do you need to know from that? We're trading in a range. Protect your capital today. Your goal is not to make $1 million. Your goal is to not lose. Today, be careful. Protect your capital. Going with that mindset, and you'll do well. Get out of trades quicker. Whether they're winners or losers, that doesn't matter. Getting out quicker means you're saving yourself risk capital. Be a little bit more patient. And instead of waiting for a breakout, ride the range. If you got a range formed, and there's supports and resistances, and you're at the top of a resistance, you shouldn't be buying. All right. You want to catch the top breakout. You don't buy the top breakout. You catch the support at the bottom. When you get to the top, take half your position and let your other half go for the breakout. Whatever you do, do not buy highs and sell lows today. In a volatile market, you could get away with it. Today, you're going to get murdered. And it's going to be death by slow chop. You guys remember the slap chop guy? Slap chop. That's what's going to happen. Manage your risk. Trade like a trade pro. See you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. We got to turn around the trade room and get some money today. See you later, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Goodbye. Last couple days. We got to get you a slap chop, Vic. Every time you chopped up, you go slap chop. What?